time has come for a thorough examination of the fighter class. Believe it or not, I'm actually quite excited to be doing this ranking. I have a lot to say about the different features and subclasses, and as always, I'll be rating everything F through S tier. Then at the end, we'll get a ranking of all the fighter martial archetypes. What can be more classic in fantasy and myth than the heroic warrior? Achilles, Hercules, Hector, Ajax, David, King Arthur, St. George, Beowulf, Miyamoto Musashi, and on these characters go. The warrior is one of the most primal and powerful archetypes in existence. Every culture in every age has had its warriors, from hoplites to centurions, Vikings to knights, Indian braves to Maori screamers, Mongols to samurai. There is a seemingly endless list of these brave and fierce men who clash in bloody battle. But the fighter from Dungeons & Dragons is something more. This is something beyond typical soldiers or town guards. This is a soul of vigor and might, who possesses combat talent of another level altogether. Sure, some fighters may begin as soldiers or village defenders, but they soon rise above the average fighting man or Amazonian warrioress. Just as the wizard is the all-time master of the arcane, the fighter is the all-time master of physical combat. The barbarian challenges the fighter in this, just as the sorcerer challenges the wizard. But in terms of the development of martial technique and sheer variety of options, the fighter reigns supreme. Since my class's ranking video, many have called me a fighter hater or that I'm prejudiced in favor of spellcasters. But these people are not paying attention. I quite like the fighter, and indeed I honor this most ancient archetype. The issue that I have is that 5e has not done enough justice to the warrior type characters, especially after seeing how amazingly they were treated in 4e. But I will go through this ranking, giving each feature fair consideration, and I will keep an open mind. So let's see if we don't stumble across a surprise or two. On to the fighter general class features. Hit die. The fighter has a D10 hit die and of course is a physically tough class. Only the barbarian supersedes him in the amount of hit points. You're proficient with light, medium, and heavy armor, with shields, and with all simple and martial weapons. You couldn't ask for more when it comes to armaments. And aside from things like spell scrolls and spellcaster implements, you can pretty much use everything. Actually, to be specific, anyone can attack with any weapon. Of course, you can just pick up any old weapon and swing it. Though, if you're not proficient, you lack your proficiency bonus on the to-hit roll. And likewise, anyone can put on a suit of armor that's of their relative shape and size. However, if you use an armor or a shield without proficiency, you have disadvantage on all ability checks, and strength, dexterity, and constitution saving throws, and you cannot cast spells, so proficiency helps a lot. Your proficient saving throws are strength and constitution. Both of these are likely to be your top two ability scores, or at least one of them is going to be one of your top ability scores, so you can expect to regularly succeed on saves that resist things like bindings, forced movement, frigid air, poison, fatigue, energy drain, and petrification. Also Finger of Death, which in 5e death effects are not like they were in the past, when they actually were death effects. Now they're more like large amounts of necrotic damage. I won't get into the debate as to which way is better, but it goes something like this. Death effects that don't actually cause death? What the hell kind of easy mode baby's first D&D is this? Yeah, a random roll determining if my character just straight up dies instantly does not sound like a fun game to me. Skills and tools. Fighters receive 2 skills from the list of acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival, and no tools. Helpful. Not amazing, but helpful. Fighting style, first level. At the beginning of your fighter path, you select a fighting style, which provides a moderate benefit in some area of combat. There's a fair amount of variety here and some good options, but let's take a look at each fighting style. Archery gives you +2 to attack rolls with ranged weapons. That's right, fighters can be fantastic archers. In fact, the fighter, not the ranger, can really be the classic archer. The ranger has all the wilderness guide and druid type magic mixed in there, which makes it a bit different than a classic pure archer. So +2 to effectively all your attack rolls is nearly unheard of in 5th edition. However, a lot of fighters are not archers, and they prefer to capitalize on the class's major melee potential, in which case the archery style is of far less value for them. Defense, +1 to AC. It's boring, it's plain as can be, but it's undeniably practical, especially for a frontline fighter. Dueling, +2 to damage when wielding just a single weapon. I'm really glad to see support for a duelist type fighter, even though the swashbuckler rogue overall pulls off this archetype a little bit better. Anyhow, with this option, your rapier becomes almost as potent as a greatsword. Great weapon fighting. When wielding a two-handed weapon or a versatile weapon in two hands, you can re-roll 1s and 2s on the dice. Only one re-roll per die, and this only applies to weapon damage, not magical add-ons like Divine Smite. There's no end to the debates as to whether this feature is strong or piddly, but having seen it in action a lot, I rate it at A tier. This is partly because it's just a fun feature to use. It also reduces how not fun it is to roll 1s and 2s with great axes, great swords, and other power weapons. Protection. When you're using a shield and someone attacks an ally within 5 feet of you, you can expend your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack roll. This option is much more dynamic and active than some of the others, though it also is more situational, so sometimes this will save your ally's hide. Other times you actually won't be able to use it at all. Two-weapon fighter. Typically when you dual wield, your offhand weapon damage does not include your strength or your dex bonus. This style lets you include the bonus, which is a solid increase to your damage. It also plays really nicely into the dual wielder feat, which lets you wield larger weapons in your offhand and gives you +1 to AC when wielding two weapons. It's difficult to rate these fighting styles, as each one is kind of good in its own way, mainly just depends on what you personally focus on with your character. There are also some other fighting styles that have been in the Unearthed Arcana articles, but as those are experimental playtest material, I'm not going to include them here. Second Wind, first level. Once per short rest, you can use a bonus action to recover hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. It's a nice feature, helps you be a little bit tougher. Action Surge, second level. Once per short rest, you can take an additional action. That's right. Double your amount of attacks for a turn, or dodge and then attack. Or if you're an Eldritch Knight or a multi-class spellcaster, cast 2 full spells in 1 turn. It's amazing. It really doesn't get better than this. Actually, it does get better at very high levels, because at 17th level, you can use Action Surge twice per short rest. This is one of the main reasons to play a fighter. Extra Attack, 5th level. You now attack twice when you use the attack action. At 11th level, this goes up to 3 attacks, and at 20th level, this goes up to 4 attacks. You are essentially the class that makes the most amount of attacks. There is no way to overstate how much you will use this. It really is a great feature, and thank the mountainous biceps of Cord, this is actually a great capstone feature for the class. Ability score improvements, 6th level and 14th level. Typically a class gets an ability score improvement or a feat at levels 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19. Fighters get 2 additional ones at levels 6 and 14. This is another great reason to play a fighter. If you have one of those rare DMs that doesn't allow feats, this feature is not quite as good. There are so many great feats to choose from. It just depends on your character's style. Defensive duelist, Great Weapon Master, Heavy or Medium Armor Master, Sharpshooter, Resilient, Polearm Master, Sentinel, and many more. Indomitable, 9th level. Once per long rest, you can re-roll a failed saving throw. This increases to 2 uses at 13th level and 3 uses at 17th level. It fits the fighter's all-around survivor hero theme, and getting another shot at making an important saving throw is quite helpful. I do wish this feature would function per short rest instead of long rest, however. That would have made it better and given the fighter a bit more impressiveness. So there we have all the general fighter features. Not too many of them. Overall, it's one of the simpler classes. But what it can do, it does quite well. Now we step into the ring with the various fighter subclasses, known as martial archetypes. The Champion. The Champion represents the most generalized fighter possible. Just a straightforward warrior man or arena fighter type character.
My name is Gladiator.
It might be the simplest subclass in all of 5e. Well, let's take a look. Improved Critical, 3rd level. Your weapon attacks now can score critical hits on a natural 19 or 20. So you'll land a critical hit twice as often, which is great when that does happen, and it pairs nicely with the Great Weapon Master feat. That's all. Simple. Remarkable Athlete, 7th level. You add half your proficiency bonus with all strength, dexterity, and constitution checks that don't already have your proficiency added in. Well, it reminds me of the Bard's Jack of all trades, which is a really cool feature. And don't forget, this does apply to initiative checks. Unfortunately, there are not as many physical ability score skills. You're probably already proficient in athletics, so when you first get this feature, it's basically giving you +1 to initiative, acrobatics, stealth, and sleight of hand. Bumps to +2 at 5th level and +3 at 13th level. This is just such a piddly feature, especially considering that it comes at 7th level. That's 2 levels after extra attack. Your allies are getting 4th level spells like Banishment, Dimension Door, and Polymorph, and you're getting +2 to a couple skills that you almost never use. This should have been just a minor side feature at 3rd level, or hey, make it provide some kind of really effective and viable power. But no, so let's toss it in the F tier trash pile and move on. Additional fighting style, 10th level. You get another fighting style. Well, that's pretty cool, though it's not as good as level 1. This is because you already picked the most beneficial fighting style then, so now you're getting like a secondary preference, most likely the +1 to AC. Also, you're getting a feature with the power of level 1 at level 10. Superior Critical, 15th level. Your weapon attacks now can score critical hits on a roll of a natural 18 through 20. So again, it's effective in a way. You get a 15% chance with each attack to score a critical hit. And it gets better if you combine it with things like a magical weapon that triggers an effect on critical hits, or the half-orc race that deals an extra weapon die on critical hits, and that Great Weapon Master feat, which gives you an additional attack when you score a critical. But this feature in and of itself is not quite amazing. It involves no interesting choices, no active maneuvers, it's just a passive damage boost that happens sometimes. Survivor, 18th level. You gain regeneration equal to 5 plus your constitution modifier. That sounds great, right? Well, unfortunately, it only works if you start your turn at half hit points or lower, and it also does not work if your hit points are at 0. Somehow your amazing regeneration property just shuts off when you need it the most. I don't know. I guess it's okay, but the stipulations that water it down just leave you wishing that you had true regeneration. It's 18th level, for God's sake. So that's the champion. It's underwhelming, it's overly simplistic, and it has that atrocious 7th level remarkable athlete sticking out like a sore thumb. But, that said, I'm not going to call it a bad subclass. It just needs some improving. The Battle Master. This type of fighter is one that has studied the art of war, the various techniques that have been developed throughout time and place. This gives him a learning of his own persuasion and a number of different combat maneuvers to select from.
You're dancing, master.
So let's take a look at the combat maneuvers themselves. They come at 3rd level, and it's the main feature of the subclass. It gives you 4d8 superiority dice and 3 combat maneuvers. You get an extra die at levels 7 and 15, and you learn 2 additional maneuvers at levels 7, 10, and 15. They provide a variety of effects, so let's check out each one. Commander's Strike. You give up one of your attacks and expend a bonus action to command an ally who expends their reaction and makes 1 weapon attack, adding a superiority die to the damage. This would be good if you didn't have to give up one of your attacks. But as is, your party as a whole still will make the same number of attacks as normal, but with having spent a bonus action and a reaction on top of it all. It's like a worse version of a 4th edition Warlord power. Now situationally it can be good, like if you get an ally rogue to sneak attack again, or if one of your allies is in range of an enemy and you're not, but overall this one could be a bit better. Disarming Attack. When you hit with a weapon attack, add in a superiority die of damage, and you disarm the target of an object or weapon it's holding if it fails a strength saving throw. Don't forget, you can pick up the dropped item immediately using your once per turn free object interaction. Disarming is a rare effect in 5e, and it potentially could be amazing against foes that rely on weapons. As a DM, I do allow disarm attempts just as is, and I actually have some homebrew rules for it, but it's not as efficient as this combat maneuver here. Distracting Strike. When you hit with a weapon attack, add in a superiority die of damage, and the next ally that attacks the target has advantage. It's simple and effective. Evasive Footwork. When you move, you can roll a superiority die and add it as a bonus to your AC until you stop moving. This could be much better. Feinting Attack. Expend a superiority die as a bonus action, choosing 1 creature within 5 feet, and you gain advantage on your next attack against it. And if you hit, that superiority die goes into the damage. Again, it's simple and it's effective. Goading Attack. When you hit with a weapon attack, add in a superiority die of damage, and the target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have disadvantage on all attack rolls against creatures other than you till the end of your next turn. Situationally, this could really take the heat off of a spellcaster ally or a badly wounded ally. But why does this bother with the wisdom saving throw to negate the effect? It's like a worse version of the marking mechanic from 4th edition. The 4e fighter is laughing his ass off at this maneuver. Lunging Attack. Make a regular melee attack but increase the reach by 5 feet, and if you hit, add the superiority die to the damage. Very simple, it's probably pretty situational. Probably not so good if you're playing Theater of the Mind, in which precise individual squares are not used. This would be much better if it could be applied to opportunity attacks. Maneuvering Attack. When you hit with weapon attack, add in a superiority die of damage, and one of your allies can expend his reaction to move up to half his speed without provoking an op attack from the enemy. Again, the 4e Warlord is showing up here. Also, again, this is one that's much better for battle map encounters in which very specific positioning is used. Menacing Attack. When you hit with a melee attack, add in a superiority die of damage, and the target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be frightened of you until the end of your next turn. That gives it disadvantage on attacks and skills. It also can't move closer to you while frightened. So if you get away from it, or if you attacked it with reach to begin with, it may not even be able to attack you at all in its next turn. I like this one. Parry. When a creature damages you with a melee attack, use your reaction and expend a superiority die. You reduce the damage that you take by an amount equal to the die roll plus your dexterity modifier. Oddly, there are other abilities called parry in 5e, but they always have to do with increasing the AC against an attack to, parry the attack. This one has the same name, but it just reduces the damage. It's a misleading name, and the effect itself could be slightly better. I guess it's as good as receiving a first level Cure Wounds, so it's nice at low levels, but it's less beneficial as the levels pass, even when you factor in the improved combat superiority that we're going to see here in a minute. Precision Attack. When you make a weapon attack, add a superiority die to the attack roll, thus increasing your 2-hit chance by a pretty good amount. You can even choose to use this after your initial roll is made, but just before the whole attack resolves. It's very nice. Pushing Attack. When you hit with a weapon attack, add in a superiority die of damage, and the target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pushed up to 15 feet. This is another one that's reminiscent of 4E. It's also relatively situational. Combined with allies that cast spells like Ray of Frost or Slow, it could control an enemy pretty well. Rally. As a bonus action, you give an ally temporary hit points equal to a superiority die plus your charisma modifier. The 4E Warlord strikes back again. I suppose it's decent. Riposte. When a creature misses you with a weapon attack, you can use your reaction to make a melee attack against it in response, adding a superiority die to the damage if you hit. Excellent. Easily one of the best maneuvers right here. Sweeping Attack. When you hit with a melee attack, choose another creature that's within your reach, and if your attack roll is high enough to hit that other creature's AC 2, you can deal damage to it equal to a superiority die? That's it. Just the D8 worth of damage. What a piddly excuse for the classic cleave attack. Trip Attack. When you hit with a weapon attack, add in a superiority die of damage, and the target must succeed on a strength saving throw or fall prone. So imagine knocking a target prone with your first attack, then making your second attack with advantage, then using Action Surge and making 2 more attacks at advantage, then your rogue ally attacks with advantage and sneak attacks the target. Very nice. We conclude the maneuvers list with another great option. So the combat maneuvers are really a mixed bunch, and like most things in 5e, certain options are subpar, while other options are quite nice. And also like most of 5e, the whole thing is just this mixture of 3e, 4e, and something new. Overall, it's a great class feature. Student of War, also 3rd level. As a minor side benefit here, along with the maneuvers, you gain proficiency with 1 type of artisan's tools. I like this. The possibilities are pretty open. It ranges from more cosmetic or role-playing value to actually crafting some combat viable items. Of course, we're going to use the term item creation very loosely, as 5e's guidelines on this are kind of meager. Know your enemy, 7th level. If you interact with or observe a creature outside of combat for at least 1 minute, you learn if it is your inferior, equal, or superior in 2 of the following areas: Strength score, Dexterity score, Constitution score, Armor class, current hit points, total class levels, if any, total fighter levels, if any. This feels like it should just be a minor secondary feature at this level, or maybe also along at 3rd level, but it's actually the only thing you get at 7th level. What a total disappointment. It's a big turd floating in the ale keg of the Battlemaster. Improved Combat Superiority, 10th level. Your combat superiority dice turn into D10s, then later on at 18th level they turn into D12s. This is nice. I wouldn't call the increase incredible, but it's a straightforward, solid mechanical benefit. Relentless, 15th level. When you roll initiative without any superiority dice remaining, you regain 1. So, hooray. It's nice. It's not as great as you would want for 15th level, but you'll take it and you'll like it. So, I do like the Battlemaster. It's dynamic, it has a lot of potential for customization and for combining different effects together. Overall, it could be better though. The combat maneuvers are great, except for some of them, and then outside of that, the other features just kind of putter and piddle along. It's like the designer said, oh, these maneuvers are so amazing, let's not give the subclass anything else substantially good. Eldritch Knight. Do you want to play a warrior mage without multiclassing? The Eldritch Knight just might be your calling. The name is a misleading one, as there isn't anything eldritch about this class. It's a rather straightforward combination of fighter and wizard with a couple perks added in for more synergy.
And his magic is good too!
Spellcasting, 3rd level. The Eldritch Knight Fighter, like the Arcane Trickster Rogue, is a 1/3 caster that draws from the Wizard spell list. But remember, you're not multi-classed, so you're also a full-on fighter. You draw from the Wizard spell list and use Intelligence as your spellcasting ability. At 3rd level, you begin with 2 cantrips, along with 2 first-level spell slots. Your number of spells known is low, and you have to choose mostly evocation and abjuration spells, so direct damage and defense or protection magic. It's kind of like red and white if we thought of it in Magic the Gathering terms. However, a few of the spells throughout the levels can be from any school of magic. Your spell progress, of course, is also on the slow side. You get 2nd level spells at fighter level 7, 3rd level spells at level 13, and a single 4th level spell per day at level 19. Overall, you can be quite a decent secondary caster, especially considering the at-will cantrips. There's another point to keep in mind when thinking about spellcasting here, which is that nearly all spells have somatic components. These are the intricate gestures that a caster uses to produce the spell itself, and you must have a free hand to perform the somatic component. Many spells also have material components for which you're going to need a component pouch or a spellcasting focus, like a wand, a staff, an orb, etc. This can be used with the same hand that performs the somatic component, luckily. In other words, you cannot be wielding a sword and a shield and cast a spell at the same time, unless you have the Warcaster feat, which is a good option to consider for Eldritch Knights, by the way. As such, the vast majority of Eldritch Knights we see are going to be wielding great swords, as it takes no action to simply let one hand go for a couple seconds in order to cast that spell. Weapon Bond, 3rd level. During a short rest, you can perform a ritual that bonds a weapon to you. You can then summon the weapon into your hand as a bonus action, as long as you're on the same plane of existence. And while you wield a bonded weapon, you cannot be disarmed unless you are incapacitated. This is a nice minor secondary benefit to go along at 3rd level. War Magic, 7th level. Whenever you cast a cantrip, you can follow it up with a weapon attack as a bonus action. What a great feature here. It's going to give you all kinds of options, especially considering the fact that this works with either melee or ranged. Eldritch Strike, 10th level. Whenever you hit a creature with a weapon attack, it has disadvantage against the next spell you cast against it before the end of your next turn. It's another really nice feature here, and it pairs nicely with Action Surge. Arcane Charge, 15th level. Whenever you use your Action Surge, you can teleport 30 feet before or after taking that extra action. It's a nice effect, maybe not quite so great as we would hope for 15th level. Also, the name is misleading as you don't truly charge anything. That charge word makes it sound like you go shooting across the battlefield, dealing lightning damage to everything in your wake and making a tremendous melee attack at the end. But no, it's not that. It's like Misty Step. Improved War Magic, 18th level. Now, instead of just cantrips, whenever you cast any spell with a casting time of 1 action, you can follow it up with a bonus action weapon attack. Okay, nice. I'll take it. There are far worse capstone features out there. I must give a standing ovation to the Eldritch Knight. This is how you do a subclass right. It has a great mixture of themes and effective mechanics, and it literally lets you cast spells and make weapon attacks all at the same time. Bravo! So now this begs the question, why the hell couldn't they have made the other fighter subclasses this good? It's kind of stupid that the best version of the fighter is a partial mage. The champion's remarkable athlete and the battle master's know your enemy should have just been minor side features that went along at 3rd level, and then they should have each received a really effective and potent feature at 7th level. That would have kept them more or less on par with the Eldritch Knight. But there are more fighter subclasses to come, yes indeed. And I've already gotten through 12 pages of script here, so it looks like we're going to have to do another 2-parter. But hey, I suppose you all stick around to listen to a long-winded bard. And the long wind is what you'll get. There are a lot of details to go over with these classes. Who knows what I'll do when I get to the cleric. So sit tight, I'll get to work on the Fighter Part 2, and I will see you soon. May your adventures be many.